Power Rangers, it's Morphin time! Yeah! Good afternoon, everybody. It's me, the media guy. And can you believe it? This is actually the first time that I ever done anything related to the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers franchise in general. Well, despite the fact that last year at FredCon, I dressed as the Nostalgia Critic and filmed a YouTube short about me hanging out with some of the Power Rangers. But that's besides the point. But moving on. Today I'm going to be reviewing the very first movie, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie. And first of all, try saying that 5 times fast. I double dog dare your mother truckers. And second, I assume that most of you are like big Power Rangers fans, which to be fair I wouldn't blame you. I'm pretty sure you would have seen this movie at some point. Even then, including the Nostalgia Critic's review of the movie, which I might leave a link in the description down below. But just in case you want to know what this movie is all about, there's always a description on the back of the VHS tape. Power up with 6 incredible teams who outmaneuvered and defeat evil everywhere as the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. But this time, the Power Rangers may have met their match when they face off with the most sinister monster the galaxy has ever seen, Ivan Ooze. Which, first of all, what a name for a villain. Unleashed upon the good citizens of Angel Grove after 6,000 years of imprisonment, Ivan Ooze stripes the Power Rangers and their leader, Zordon of the Power. Like, no kidding, Scoob! Now the Power Rangers must journey to a distant planet to learn the secrets of the ancient majested. Only then they will become empowered with a force strong enough to restore the Morphin ability and defeat the evil Ivan Ooze. Join the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and the new Ninja Megazord. Ninja Megazord, as they fight to save Angel Grove and the world from the forces of evil. Eat your heart out, Justice League. Now, despite the fact that I'm not like a big Power Rangers fan or an expert in general, which I honestly don't blame you guys for thinking that in the comments below, I honestly thought this movie was an okay movie. I mean, sure, there are a lot of goofy moments here and there. There are times where the logic might not make a lot of sense, in my opinion. And again, I'm not like a big Power Rangers fan or an expert. I was mostly into other shows and movies like Roly Poly Oly, The Wiggles, Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, and sometimes Pixar. But I find this to be an okay introduction to the franchise. I mean, to be fair, I did start to be more familiar with the franchise long before I ever watched this movie or seen any of the TV shows. Heck, I seen the Nostalgia Critic review this movie before on his channel years ago, which again, I'll leave a link to his review in the description down below, including the sequel, Turbo, a Power Rangers movie. But this is still an okay movie. It does have some cool action sequences, an interesting plot with a beginning, middle, and end, even if it might not make a lot of sense. Ivan Ooze does seem like a pretty cool villain. The special effects are okay, kind of cheesy, but okay. And overall, it's still an okay movie, even though this movie almost seems like some kind of made-for-TV movie based on the quality. Which I know it wasn't intended to be like a made-for-TV movie. Which I know that's what you guys are going to point out in the comments below. But it almost seems like a made-for-TV movie in my opinion. But I wouldn't necessarily say it's like the worst movie ever. I gotta admit it, Ivan Ooze is quite an interesting villain. And I gotta admit, whenever he's on screen, I always get a little bit of a chuckle out of him. He kind of reminds me of Genie from the Aladdin movies, in my opinion. But more menacing. And you can always, and not gonna lie, you can tell that the cast and crew really did their best to make sure this movie is an okay film. Even if it might not have been perfecto. I mean, yeah, I know you guys can point out a lot of things that's wrong with this movie in the comments below. I mean, I already pointed out how it seems kind of cheesy and campy. Kind of funny how I would often call Monster Dog a campy, cheesy horror movie, but still have a good time with just how campy and cheesy it is. Since this movie is kind of a guilty pleasure in my opinion. And I guess the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie is kind of a guilty pleasure in my opinion. Because again, maybe very campy, cheesy, and the plot might not make a ton of sense, but I would have to get a blast of it. I even like how the Power Rangers have to fight off an army of giant black chickens on the planet Thetis. Which, yeah, that does seem like a very goofy name. That's like something you would hear in a Star Trek word jumble or something. Or that's the name of a planet you would hear in like the movie Spaceballs or something. Even though the movie Spaceballs technically came out first before the Power Rangers movie and the franchise even existed. Which that is technically true. But I'm just saying, since the name Planet Phaelus sounds like something that could have been named in the movie Spaceballs. And I'm not gonna lie, it is a little bit heartwarming seeing Zoran almost kick the bucket, and the Power Rangers had to do everything they can to save his life. Since one of them did say that he was like a father to them. But speaking of which, how come the kids' parents don't seem to know about their kids being Power Rangers and the fact that they were fighting evil and had to go into outer space and whatnot? I mean, surely the parents would have figured out that their kids were really Power Rangers defending the city. Man, if the kids' parents knew about that, they probably would have had a field day. Or they would have been howling like crazy. I'm just saying. And again, this movie is might not be like for everyone, but it's still a harmless movie. And yeah, I know that the side villains might not make much of an appearance, like Rita, Goldar, and the others, but they do seem like interesting villains. And I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of shocking seeing the construction workers accidentally stumbling across an underground vault where this guy was held prisoner for 6,000 years in some kind of ancient space Easter egg underground. Again, the movie pretty much explains how and why it's there for a reason. And I'm not gonna lie, at first I thought the egg was like completely empty, until this guy starts rising out from the egg-filled, slime-filled egg. Ugh. And now comes Ivan Ooze. Oh, I get it now. He has a thing for ooze. And we even see the Power Rangers fight off these purple monster things that Ivan seems to conjure up. And while the action sequences do look fine, they do look a little bit cartoony. In fact, I would often hear a few Hanna-Barbera sound effects during the fight sequence, and I was like, okay, did Hanna-Barbera somehow got involved with this movie? I mean, I know that Hanna-Barbera had no involvement with the Power Rangers franchise in general, but I swear, if you listen to the sound effects very carefully, it almost sounds like the filmmakers used some Hanna-Barbera sound effects, which probably made the movie seem a little bit cartoony. In fact, I almost thought I was watching like a Saturday morning cartoon version of the Power Rangers from time to time. Okay, joking aside. This is still a harmless action movie for everyone to enjoy. And again, I'm not really much of a big Power Rangers fan in general. Since again, I didn't grow up watching Power Rangers, and no, I'm not that old. I just didn't know much about the franchise until I was much older and started watching other people talk about the show, which once again technically includes the Nostalgia Critic reviewing this movie on his channel. So I'll give this movie 5 Zorons out of 5. So thank you guys so much for checking out this review of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie, which I still had a blast doing, by the way. And it looks like tomorrow I'll be covering Ernest Goes to Jail, which I have a feeling that sounds like one interesting movie if you know what I'm talking about.